Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us at our September webinar. I am Sebastian Oros, one of the senior facilitators for Intentional Schools, and I am so happy to be facilitating this awesome discussion today. We have our whole team here today, which is awesome. If I'm just going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Hey, I am Julie Bryant. I am a director and senior facilitator with Intentional Schools, and I am a BCBA, so behavior analyst by training. I did that for many years before coming on board here. So I've worked with a lot of kids, a lot of families, and a lot of teachers across home, community, and school settings. So that's a little about me.
I'm Jackie Montroy, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. And for 17 years, I was a school social worker in a Title I high school, and I loved every second of it, but I'm excited to talk about this topic today. And I'm a senior facilitator for Intentional Schools.
I'm Jim Walter. I'm the senior facilitator, the oldest among the group, and perhaps the best looking, but I'll leave that to the viewer. I've been in public schools for 29 years now, 22 in administration, and hopefully that experience offers something to the conversation, but looking forward to being part of this group.
Thanks, everyone. So the topic is self-care, and this is a topic that isn't talked about much as a whole group. All the years and experience that we have in the schools, I can speak to that as well. We do talk about self-care maybe amongst our colleagues or our friends in our offices and this and that. But as a whole group in a school, we don't tend this isn't a topic that's usually on the priority list a lot of the time. So I'm excited to facilitate this because your guys' experience and all of the things and stories and all of the ideas that you guys have will hopefully help our viewers to kind of start this awesome school year out, because that's really what this is about, is the start of the school year and all the excitement. But we also know that a lot of stress builds up very quickly when you work in the schools. So let's get started with the impact and the value of self-care has during a school day. So what are some examples, guys, of how you can improve your self-care overall when you're an educator? So let's just stay general for a second. Who'd like to start us off with that?
For during the school day, my biggest recommendation is to take your lunch. We're entitled, in my school, we were entitled to a 24-minute duty-free lunch. And it was hard to take it. And I just think that little break would have given me capacity to finish the day better than I usually did. That's just one little practical thing, I would say.
When you say take your lunch, tell us more about what that actually looks like.
Like actually have a duty-free lunch.
Yeah.
So just close my office door or get out of my office even and have lunch with a coworker just for that 24 minutes that we're allowed, and talk about something unrelated to students or school. Because oh my gosh.
That's a really good point, Jackie, because how many of us have taken vacations and we open up our Chromebook or whatnot and we do work, right? So is it really a vacation, right? So yeah. Great point.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to just keep rolling, grading something or graphing data or whatever you may be doing during that. You're like, oh, I'm catching up, but you never really catch up. Really, you're going to be.
There's always work to be done.
Right? Yeah.
So kind of going off of what Jackie's saying is, does anybody else have anything as far as like how do you make that a priority, taking your lunch? Like what do you do with that? I mean, that is something that just hearing everybody's titles here, you guys seem to have more of an open door policy just based on your titles, right? So how do you make it a priority?
It might be a little easier. Well, I don't know. I was going to say it might be a little easier for us, but maybe not, because I know classroom teachers they don't have kids in their classroom during their lunch period. However, so many teachers that I know would have students with them. They're just always working, always pouring into kids. So for me, like the practical part would be just letting my coworkers and my immediate admin know that this is going to be a priority. These are the reasons why. And obviously, if there's a crisis, then I'm available like that. There's, it wouldn't be an absolute, but it would be the norm that I would take it.
Yeah. Okay. Displaying some assertiveness skills. Nice.
Yes.
Anybody else? How can we improve our overall self-care? What other ideas do we have?
So I'm a bit of a fish philosopher. So if any of you've read the book Fish, London, Christensen and Paul, based on the Seattle's Pike Place fish market, just the idea of play, that adults are both entertained by and energized by play. So, I mean, I've been an administrator most of my career, but it would not be uncommon for me to steal a group of kids from another teacher and have them fret for a few minutes, because the kids love it. And then, you're not actually taking them off campus. No one should worry about that. But you might get them into another classroom, or teachers that forget their keys, you lock their doors behind them. And so they have a little playful frustration. They can't get back into their room. You got to have a good relationship with these folks to do these kinds of things. But I think play is a very important part of it. If you're a leader, part of every staff gathering should be 5 minutes of play, 5 minutes of engagement that has no useful purpose other than to make us smile and laugh together. I'm wrong about a lot of things, but I think that's really important for adults in a setting where you interact with humans all day, every day, and your decisions can feel like life or death. That might be a little overstated, but you get it. Everything that you do, every decision you make is important. So you need to have a few decisions or a few moments that are reserved that aren't important, other than we're going to smile and laugh.
That's such a great point, Jim. I just remember when I worked in the schools for 18 years, a colleague of mine would come in and out of our office all the time and have little jokes here or there just to break up the day, just so you can get through the next task or the next crisis or whatnot. Great point. Yep. Great point.
I think also scheduling in things to look forward to. I was just thinking back of things along those lines that are community building, that you feel like you're on a united front with your coworkers. But one of my early jobs, a couple of the other therapists and I, we had Mickey Mouse nights, which meant that we would, on the calendar, we would have all of our sessions that all the kids' families were working with, that big master calendar. And then we would put Mickey Mouse stickers like every other Friday, and we would go out after work and we would have Mickey Mouse nights. And so that was just something that was part of our rhythm. And that we would sometimes talk and laugh about funny things with work, but we also just spent time together. But having that, like, oh, good, we have a Mickey Mouse night coming up, that having that to look forward to was really a helpful thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Fun example. Yeah. So let's kind of move on to the next question. What have you seen from leadership that, is there any, and Jim, I know you spoke to it with your leadership title, you gave a few examples, but what else have you seen from leadership in your guys' roles throughout the years that help educators with self-care?
Yeah, from my standpoint as the leader, is you want to help take the steam and emotion out of the day's work. So these are the things we encounter each day, are problems to be worked. And I think Julie said it earlier, most problems are going to be here tomorrow for us as well. It doesn't mean they're not important. It doesn't mean they don't deserve our energy, but we need to be able to leave each day successfully and attend to our families and attend to ourselves. I think leaders have to set an example of that in their own lives. That's important, but they also have to prioritize it and verbalize it for a staff. We will work on this problem tomorrow. This problem will be here tomorrow. There are emergencies, but they in general should be rare and thus called emergencies, not the norm. So I don't know, that's a bit of self-care, I think, that leadership can help
Sure.
provide and help people prioritize things as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
almost giving them a sense of it's okay.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
Great
you're
example.
exactly right.
What else? What else have we seen from leadership?
I don't think you use this word, Jim, but I feel like leaders protecting that boundary for educators. Like I feel like that's what you were doing when you're saying that problem will be here tomorrow. Um,
So
I
yeah, the phrase we would use is stop stealing dreams.
Hmm.
Tell me
Stop
more about
stealing.
that.
It's just people come into the profession to solve problems, sometimes independently, but lots of times together. Don't let things become too monotonized where we just have a formula for what we do, and then don't let things overwhelm people. Yeah, you have to protect their integrity as individuals, but you have to protect their dreams. 95% of people that get into education are simply very wonderful people trying to do great things for each other, and then most importantly for kids and communities. And you can't let things you can't let the robber get in front of you and steal away dreams. You have to protect that time. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I like that. I like that. One example that I remember a principal doing, she must have had very good, I think that was the best team that I worked for. She had really good communication with her assistant principals, because she had, as a high school principal, you're there all the time for games and plays and all that. But she had standing appointments that she wouldn't miss, but we knew exactly who was in charge when she left on Thursdays at 4. And so I think that was really good, like the communication. She was taking care of herself, and letting everyone know they were taken care of too.
Sure.
Julie, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
It's all right. No, that's really good. I was just thinking too, going back to what Jim was saying about people getting into the education field. I think there's this idea of, I hear teaching called a calling a lot.
Yeah.
And there's this sense of, with that, I mean, that's a beautiful thing to be like, oh, I'm called to teach, this is who I am meant to be. And that's a beautiful thing. But I think with that, there's this sense of, it's a calling, but it's part of the job. Like, you're going to be burned out and you're going to be stressed, but this is what you signed up for. And that is not helpful to people at all. And I think that kind of, as a leader, I love it when I see leaders that push back against that, that you are a wonderful teacher and you are bringing so much to this, that we want you to thrive, both personally and professionally. And so having that mindset of, yes, it might be a calling, but that doesn't mean you have to put up with junk all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yes, it's hard, but we're here with you and we want to help relieve that when we can, not just accept that teaching is hard. Parents are hard, kids are hard. Yeah, all those things are true. And we can make this better and have that sense of hope and progress.
Yeah, I love that. Great example. So when red flags pop up, like first of all, if somebody would like to jump in and just kind of, we're going to talk about nose diving and how self-care can easily take a nosedive, right? But would somebody like to explain first, what are red flags? Like, what do we say when, what are red flags and as an educator, and when we're talking about burnout and stuff? So what are some ideas or some examples of some red flags as an educator?
I think one of them is like sacrificing those boundaries that you had originally set up. When it becomes the norm to stay till 6 every night, or skip your lunch, or always be in a rush that you miss like the courtesies and the politeness with your coworkers. I think those are red flags. Sometimes it's hard to see them in yourself. think
No,
that
that's a great point, Jackie, because so this idea that every minute counts, I have to be doing something, I have to be right, and I have to show the staff that I'm there till 9 o'clock at night and all right, all that mentality, right? And so no, I totally get it. You are definitely on the verge of burning out if time is something that you're showing your work ethic through. Does that make
that's a
sense?
good
Yeah.
point. Time. That's a good line, Sebastian.
Right. Any other red flags as an educator that you guys have seen or felt or heard?
I'd say if you can't laugh with your kids,
Mm,
you
oh,
can't
wow.
pause long enough to laugh with your kids, then you're probably too stressed out. You've got too
Let me
much.
just clarify, Julie. Kids, students or kids at home or both?
Well,
Or
I was thinking students with
yeah,
the students, the
sure.
kids you're working with, but yeah, at home too. If your mind is so busy that you can't laugh at one of your kids' jokes, and I mean, kids are cracking up all day, so you
Yeah.
can't laugh at every single one of them. But if you find that you get to the end of a day or a couple of days and you didn't laugh with a kid, one of your students, that's a pretty big red flag.
Oh,
I would say.
great example.
Yeah, and I'd just tag on with Julie. I was going to say one of the struggles that I've found myself having at times is you get home and you don't have the energy for your kids or your spouse. And I regret having to say that out loud, but it does happen. And you, whether it's your partner or yourself, catching those moments, I think those are signs of, or they are red flags or signs of burnout. The phrase, I'm just done with people today, or I'm just done with people this week. And we use phrases to sort of diminish the actual impact. I get that, but I think those are things to pay attention to. There's not always a direct tie to an answer because sometimes the job is the job. But we need to keep in mind, as Julie and Jackie and Sebastian, as you were all pointing out, we don't want those times to be the exception, not the rule. They will happen, but they just need to remain the exception.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, this is all great. These are all great nuance examples that you guys gave because you guys have had the experience and continue to. That's awesome. Let's kind of talk about what are things at school that we do to help prevent some burnout. So, for example, one of the things that I know I used to always do was I used to always save emails and put them in a folder in my I don't know, I would label it, positive emails or something like that, right? Or recognition emails or something along those lines, right? And when I had a moment, I would have to get in the routine of opening up that labeled email, right? To kind of reread. But once I got in the routine of it, it helped me get out of that moment. Maybe it wasn't a long lasting solve, but it helped me get out of that moment here or there. So what are some other ideas that you guys have done, have seen, or can think about right now to help you kind of, to help educators really stay positive throughout the day?
Man, the most important one I can offer is motion changes emotion. When you're down or stressed, or pick any other word you'd like to, go for a walk. Take your class for a walk. If you're an administrator, leave your office. See kids or don't see kids, but movement changes what happens in the brain. We all know the physiology that takes place when we exercise and the positive things that come of that. It's simple and it doesn't have to be forever, but motion changes emotion is how we remember it. We talk about it in our family and we talk about it among kids and adults at school. Administrators, you can run a class for 15 minutes. So someone can take a walk and get a cup of coffee, but all related to motion changes emotion for me.
Great phrase.
I know I developed, good friendships with one of my coworkers and then one of my admin. They're so funny. Even just thinking about it makes me laugh. Like just popping in their office. If I was walking down the hall to go see a student and I would see her like at her computer, I'd just pop in and it was just like I don't know, just the personality was just like a warm and welcoming, refreshing, change of pace to the day.
Yeah.
So I think like finding those people and developing a real relationship with them. Not, yeah, I think that's
That was
pretty
awesome.
valuable to laugh, right? Throughout
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
that was an awesome moment, Jackie, because even you didn't know that was going to happen. But as you were talking about this administrator, you smiled, you laughed,
day.
you right. And I
I
could
can
see
picture
how
right
that
now.
would get you through the moment,
Yeah.
right? So that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Any other?
think the flip side of that too is we all have those coworkers that really like to talk about all the problems with things
Mm.
and that might not be as solutions oriented.
Yeah.
So don't being mindful to not commiserate with other people. And when you're already struggling, if you're starting to take that nosedive, to be like, okay, I know I can't talk to so and so about this today because it's just going to send me further down this hill. So
Yeah.
find Jackie's friend, not that coworker.
Right, right.
I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second, Jim, if this is okay. One of the ideas that I had written down here was not being afraid to tell your administrator what you need. And I'm putting you on the spot just because you know you are currently an administrator right now, a leader, and so do you feel that like how do you break that barrier with staff members if you're feeling like I know this person needs something right now because I see the red flags or the burnout creeping on this person? How do you break that barrier with a staff member and kind of allow them to share what they need in the moment if they need that 15 minutes for you to teach or this or that? Sorry to put you on the spot here.
No, not at all. Because I had seen your note and it's a great one. I think all the best administrators want to know what the problems are. I'm not a mind reader. I can't solve problems that I don't know about. It's hard enough to solve problems you know about sometimes, but at least I can listen or empathize. And I think it's incumbent upon administrators in today's age to talk to every staff member regularly. So we have a rule of fives. It's 5 classrooms for 5 minutes every single day. So that's 25 scheduled minutes. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a commitment every day to be out and visiting and trying to gauge. Most times people don't need anything or they won't communicate it to you. But you're constantly doing, Seb, just what you said, trying to break down the walls so that they can tell you when they need to. And any administrator worth their salt needs to know where the issues are so they can assist. Administrators have bad days too. And they have permission to, but their primary task is to take care of the people who take care of the students. And yes, we care about the students too, and we're involved with them daily, but that's our primary task.
Okay.
And so I think just what you said, it's as simple as you take the time to break down barriers. We might be talking about last night's Monday Night Football game, but it's an opportunity for conversation. I can't tell you how many times whether my team won or lost translates into, hey, I've been wondering about this piece of our curriculum, but the door was opened over an everyday water cooler conversation.
Sure.
So I hope that helps a little bit. You're right on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that response. Awesome. So one of the things as a educator myself in 18 years, I felt myself trying to rediscover my passion as an educator because times get low, right? It's like a roller coaster in terms of the ins and outs of the job, right? And so what have you done to rediscover your passion? I know I'll give one example. I worked for a district that had a leadership program, and I entered into that, and it was a very different feel and something very different for what I was used to in terms of my normal day-to-day job and role, and that repassioned and gave me some new energy to the job role. So what are some other examples that you guys have seen, felt, or heard of when it comes to rediscovering your passion as an educator as the years go on while you're working?
I got a good one.
Yeah.
And it is along the same lines, but I think it's kind of a funny story. I worked in this district for 17 years, and we went through like a long period of time where there wasn't money. There wasn't money for trainings. There wasn't money for development. There wasn't money for supplies. I mean, all this stuff. And then we hired a handful of new social workers in 1 year, and they were going to all these trainings and all these like professional developments. I mean, like conferences all over the place. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, have we had a paradigm shift and I didn't know about it? Like, do we have money now? And then, because I had gone so many years, like I quit asking because we never had any money. And then all of these newbies, to their credit, I mean, good for them, were asking for things and getting it. And so all of a sudden I was like, okay, we have money now. Okay. So then I started asking and receiving, and I was able to go to a couple, they were restorative justice conferences, which was huge. Like, it's such a huge paradigm shift in discipline. And so that really, like, being able to learn something new in your field, not having, as a social worker, not having to go to the new reading curriculum professional development, but to focus on something that's in my discipline. That felt really good and renewed my passion. So
Awesome. Great
yeah, it's
example.
along the same lines, but I just
Yeah,
remember, wait a minute.
Great example. Yeah.
Yeah, I think along with that, the learning, looking into learning something new, taking on a new educational piece, or even changing your role a bit, like thinking about, okay, so this happened with me. I've been working one-on-one with kids with autism for a while for one of my jobs, and was doing that, and it was great and I loved it. But I had an opportunity to run social skills groups for that were inclusive. So some kids with special needs, some kids without special needs, for a kindergarten in one of the districts I was working with. So in their after school program, I ran these weekly social skills groups.
Love
And it was so much fun. And I was still using my skills, but in a different way. And it stretched me and then made me laugh so much, because kindergartners and social skills are just hilarious in
Sure,
general.
yeah.
That's amazing.
But trying something new with what you do know.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, and taking a little risk, right? And stop doing the
Yeah.
same old traditional. I know when I started 18 years ago, doing the role that I was in, and when I recently just ended the role, it was completely different looking than how I started in terms of my practice, my day-to-day practice, right? As education evolves, right? So anything else about rediscovering your passion?
I would just encourage for those in educational leadership, spend time with students. Two things I do regularly. I have a student advisory group. I have kids from all levels that I meet with. And yeah, I take them out to lunch, but they really let their hair down then, and they'll tell you everything that's going right or going wrong with the school from their perspective, but we need their perspective.
Yes.
The other thing we do is we interview graduating seniors, and we ask them to tell us, if we were taking you back to your freshman year, what things would you need me to change to make the experience better? But anytime you're talking with young people, you're going to get fairly candid responses, and you may not enjoy all the responses, and some of them cut a little closer to the bone than we would like. But again, you're hearing from kids who experience every bit of our effort. So that always energizes me. Even if I didn't like what I heard, it makes me think, how do I not have that come up again in a positive way? So
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for that. Great aid.
Yep.
So we're gonna kind of end with, we're still on the self-care, but we're gonna look in terms of home. So we talked a lot about school, we talked about a lot of our day-to-day job. However, we do bring a lot of things home, right? So one thing we do know about college, unless you guys correct me if I'm wrong in terms of the programs that you went through, is that there really wasn't a class or a course focusing on how do you not bring work home mentally, right? And so that is just something that I feel like you learn on the job, right? And after so many years of experience, and right. So what do you do at home to help with self-care in terms of you as an educator?
Mhm.
So I'd turn it back to, sorry, go
No,
ahead,
you
Jack.
go. You go.
I would turn it back just for a moment to schools. If you're a teacher, use your prep period for preparation. Don't use your prep period for the idle chit chat, or reserve 10 minutes of your prep period for that. But use it to prep so you take away some of the workload that you might take home. So I kind of skipped over your question, Seb, and I apologize, but I think that's important. And then at home, I think you have to prioritize time that allows that's really just your time. It might be a 30-minute walk or exercising. It might be a little bit of time in a book that has no meaning to the rest of your life. Spy novels for this guy. Okay. And they all end the same way, I know, but I love the endings. But
People
somewhere,
watch Hallmark movies, Jim.
you know what? I guess I'm not man enough, probably, but good suggestion. No, so a little bit of time for yourself goes a long way toward taking care of your whole family and yourself. It's not selfish to take care of yourself a little bit first. No different than they tell you on the airplane. You got to put the mask in an emergency. You got to put the mask on yourself first, or we have a bunch of people flailing. It doesn't mean you don't help others. It doesn't mean you're not there for your family. Just carve out a little bit of time to do something you love that is not work.
Awesome.
I was going to backtrack a little bit too. As far as not bringing work home, I made that rule early on in my career that if I had to go early, like early, like 6:30, 7 or 6 o'clock, whatever, to get the work done. If I had evaluations or anything I needed to do, I would do that, but I did not bring work home. I would not bring work home. When I left the building, it was there. And I was more of the go early and then see ya at 3.
So Jackie, let me
3:15.
ask you, was that a rule of yours? Like
It was a rule of mine.
self-help? That was a rule of yours. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yep. And one thing, I had a lot of friends in my work life that were my friends in my personal life, and it was great. And they're very valuable friendships. I lacked having a community outside of that. And so oftentimes when I was socializing with friends, they were also work friends. And so you just inevitably start talking about something work related. So I think I'm a big believer in it takes a village. So we've worked really hard in building a village where I live now for our kids and our family. And it's pretty diverse. It's not just work people. It's not just school people. Like, it's a diverse group. So I think having a community and a village for yourself and your family that's not just from your work life.
Great example. Thanks.
One other thing I was thinking about with so if you are in the boat where you feel like you do have to do some of it, you do have to take some home. I love what you guys have said so far about trying not to be this person, but with the caveat of, if you are that person, I would encourage people to block off the time and say, I am going to give myself this hour. I'm getting my kids in bed. I'm going to take this hour before I sit down and watch TV with my husband or my spouse or partner or whatever. I'm going to take this much time to knock out as much as I can. And when that timer goes off, I'm turning it off. Because I have found, I'm going to say this is some confession time here. I'm really bad to check the email like all the time. And so I'm really bad to just be like, oh, I'll just take care of this. But if I got really convicted at one point because I noticed on your phone, it tracks up how many times you pick it up during the day. And I was shocked at how many times I had picked up my phone to look at it. And I'm like, that's every one of those is an interruption from something that's going on where I am physically right now.
Mm.
All of those were an interruption from my family, from my friends, from somebody, from something else that I'm doing. So making a point to say, I'm not going to check my email. I'm not going to check my phone unless it's this hour and then I'm turning it off. And that's a hard thing to do, but I think it can have a lot of effect. And especially because, again, back to what we were saying earlier, the work is never done. It's like laundry. It's always going to keep coming. You're going to have to do more tomorrow. So it's not ever that you're going to get ahead. So you might as well just make the most of what you can, keep yourself sane in the process.
Sure. So I'm gonna end with one last question, and then we'll kind of summarize here. What's the impact of all this mentally and physically when it comes to self-care? And we just, I'll give you a second here to think about that. Mentally, you're just you're more in the moment. Physically, we can create health problems. Like what's the impact of all of this if we do not put self-care as a priority in our lives? Anybody want to jump start on that?
It's hard to fill someone else's cup if your cup is empty. I
Good
think
point.
that's the best way it's been told to me. So you have to keep your cup reasonably full in order to help fill others.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's a great summarizing that, Jim. Thanks. Anybody else?
I was just gonna say all of the above, what you just said, like it takes a toll physically, and mentally. You can get wrapped up in your work is your identity, and then it takes on, I was definitely guilty of that, and it takes on a whole view of itself, and yeah.
Awesome. That's a great point.
There's also a piece of brain science about feeling tired. So the part of your brain that processes positive things is impacted by how tired you are. So when you are tired, everything literally feels worse because your brain is not processing the good as quickly as it processes the bad. It comes from that fight or flight. Like we have to process the bad to survive. So your brain is still working at regular speed when you're tired on the negative piece and processing that information, but it is not going to process the positive. And so when you are exhausted and burned out, everything is going to keep feeling worse until you feel more exhausted and burned out. And so until you break that cycle, it's not going to get any better.
Oh, thanks for that. That's great. Well, listen, guys, Julie, Jackie, Jim, you guys did an awesome job today. Thank you for all the stories, the ideas. Self-help is something that's not prioritized enough, but we need to talk about it more. And with your guys' expertise and experience, we just had a great 40 minutes or so of all the things that you guys have seen, felt, or can do to help educators out. So I want to thank you guys for that and your expertise. This is Intentional Schools. We will have a October webinar, and be sure to check that out. We also have one webinar on our website, and this is the September one. So be on the lookout for future webinars as we enter into the fall and the school year has started. So thank you guys, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.